Thank you, Nutanji. Yeah. It, Hello, Krishnesh. Okay. Nice to see you, Krishnesh, here. Okay. Shall we start? Yeah. So, thank you very much for coming. Actually, this particular, exploration has evolved very organically from, observing children outside to observing children inside. So, see, the background of this is that I have been quite concerned about the absolute loss of knowledge in modern educated people about all the existential facts of life, aspects of life. Modern educated people have become completely dependent on an expert for everything, and they have somehow disconnected from life completely. And because of that, they have been, damaging children left, right, and center because they've been all the time controlled by the market and the expert, never using their own senses to understand children. So I started exploring observing children from 1993. Till then, from 94, 98 or 95 to 91, I have not been observing children, but I was trying to make them creative. I wanted to save them actually. But in 91, as I started living with non literate people, I realized that the whole tragedy is that we have not understood what is actually the nature of the child. And the reason is this that, I was living with rural, traditional artisans. And I found that there was no teaching at all. And in spite of that, by the time children reach around 12 years, they become experts in their respective crafts. So I found this complete difference between indigenous societies, so-called illiterate people, and the educated people. 100% opposite approach to children. In the indigenous communities, there's no teaching at all, and children are absolutely free to function in the manner that life has enabled them to function. The problem with educated people is that our idea of freedom is that children will do all kinds of things. That's an absolutely unwanted fear that has been instilled in modern people. Actually, children don't do that because in the rural tribal areas, children are 100% free, and they don't do all kinds of things. So, because that is dictated by life, it's not something that you with your ego is functioning. No. So as I began to observe children, I really found that what children require is autonomy, respect, love, and trust. This is all what they require. They need nothing more. They don't need your instruction. They don't need your disciplining. They don't need your toys. They don't need your books. Nothing. Absolutely nothing is required. Because learning is the nature of life. Learning is the nature of life. To live means to know. It's a choiceless thing, actually. Because can you choose with your senses? Are you hearing me now? Are you choosing not to hear me? Can you choose not to see? You have eyes, you're seeing. Your senses are not in your control at all. It's functioning. So this has been completely neglected in the modern paradigm. And so I began to observe children. From 91 onwards, I've been observing children. And meanwhile, I also stopped reading completely. 100% I stopped reading. Because I realized that I'm actually not observing. I'm observing by the thoughts that is already in my head. There's already some ideas that has been fed into your head. So you're seeing the child through the ideas that are given. So naturally, we don't actually see the child. So I stopped reading. And there's also another interesting thing that I realized, that when I was living with illiterate people and literate people, the difference is that literates learn the word and illiterates learn the world. And that makes all the difference. Because to learn the world is what you're equipped for. That is what your whole system, your cognitive system is meant for, understanding the world, not for reading and imagining. No. Reading is a tool. Book can be a tool, but it cannot dictate your cognition. This is what a very subtle thing that modern people have completely missed. So, from the journey, I began to work in the last 6-7 years. I've been working with parents and trying to get them to observe. And that observation has actually made tremendous change to people who have been, collaborating with me. Just observation, they're able to understand that what the child is doing. See, in observation, you don't have to think. That I show you this bottle you saw, you don't have to think about it. Now you saw it. You see? So natural cognition is actually something that you don't have to, work your brain at all. You will see. So there are two things that I explored in this process. One, the damages of modern mindset, modern cognitive, people who have been reading, and how does their cognitive system rewires, and they stop seeing and they create ideas in their head and they imagine that is true. Basically, educated people have opinions, that's all. They have no knowledge. Because when you see, what you see is knowledge. If you don't use your senses, you don't have knowledge. Then you're imagining something. That's an imagination because you're not seen it. It's all in your imagination. So what we've been doing in the last few years is that we have been systematically observing, documenting, and trying to understand this whole cognitive process. And actually, another big damage of the educated people is that they have no idea how to observe without thinking. And they also find it very difficult to communicate with children the first 2 years or 2.5, 3 years, because you only know how to use language. That sensitivity to observe and understand is lost. So you are in a hurry to teach the child how to speak so that then you can begin to speak. But just this ability to observe, sense, feel, intuit has been completely taken away because we have never used our senses, because senses are the basic tools that will enable then the further development of intuition and everything related to that. Sensitivity, all that is related to senses. So once you remove senses from cognition, then you can only create ideas with your head. That's all. And that too, you will have to depend on some book, because ideas don't just come like that. Because all the ideas of modern humans comes from the books they have read or the experts they have heard, not from the child, not from observing. So this particular idea of would-be parents, inviting would-be parents, is to basically shift this focus, this observation, after birth to before birth. So right from the time the child is in your womb, you begin to sense, feel, and kind of respond to the child, to the child, uh, in the womb itself. So, this also came to me very, very interestingly, naturally. Somewhere around 1991, I happened to meet a person, a friend who was a smoker, and she was pregnant. And I think it was around 6 months or 7 months or something like that. 6 months, exact thing I don't remember. And what she told was that when she was smoking, when she smokes, the child kicks from inside. This is what she told me. And then she told me, continued that after a month or so, even the urge to smoke makes the child kick. So, which actually means that even your mind, even your, needs are actually taken over by the child. And then I kept my antennas open to listen to more and more of this. So I came across many such very interesting, experiences. And then I also realized that the vomiting sensation that usually happens to pregnant women is probably because the child doesn't like what you're eating. Like meaning it's not good for its health. That's the reason. There's no like and dislike in the manner that we think. It's actually health is the reason why we don't like and dislike. That's the fundamental reason. Which of course we condition and we change our taste, condition the taste, and then we forget that it is actually health that should dictate the taste. So this is the loss of biology that I'm talking about. This is the loss of connection with life's messages that I'm talking about. Then there is another very interesting incident of that was I came across mother's experience. In Orville, Pondicherry, that she happened to see two children who looked very familiar to the Aurobindo mother, and then so she was telling that these children look very familiar. And then suddenly she remembered that these children looked like the paintings done by a painter called Reynolds. He has done a fantastic, beautiful drawing of two children, And so mother told that, that this is what I can see the similarity. And the biological mother told that in fact she keeps that particular photo in front of her, and she always every day she sees that and imagine that my children are going to be like this, or child is going to be like this. So I find there are a lot of fantastic such experiences that keeps reminding you that there is something far more magical and sacred and mystical about life, which modern education completely takes away. It actually makes us very dry. We call it nonsense called scientific, and completely dried out from this beautiful experience of life. So so this is what I thought that we should now begin. That, and I also see other very important thing you must understand is that the crisis of modern humans basically can only be understood by really understanding what has made us anti-life. And that begins with children. As children, we were taken out of our biological process, and that is why all of us have become anti-life. That is why we don't know life at all. We have to read and then, imagine things about life rather than actually, getting a sense of what actually is life. See? So I believe that the meta crisis, or the root of all the crises that we are facing today, is fundamentally a cognitive crisis. A crisis in disturbing the knowing that normally happens automatically. You see, the indigenous societies were never anti-life. They have lived here for thousands of years in harmony with nature. That is only because there is a kind of cognitive system that they followed, because the life made them do it. It's not their ego that made it happen. You see? So I think it is important. So part of this exploration is also to understand what is actually cognition. Why is that modern humans have turned against life? And why is that indigenous societies, illiterate societies, have always been life itself? One doesn't have to say pro-life; they're life itself. So a deeper exploration of this is to truly understand how do cognition actually happens without language, without all that kind of theories that we have. How does it happen naturally? So the exploration basically is from a larger and a deeper perspective of to understand what is actually cognition, what is to be human, and at the same time, seeing whether the would-be mothers can start a journey of trusting their messages that comes from the womb. That's basically the thing. And how I'm envisaging this is that we would like to hold a safe space where the would-be mothers, if they feel like, can start sharing what is happening to them, and create a supporting space there. And of course, we will ban all the strange scientists from that place because we are not don't want any theory behind anything. We would rather like to trust what your experience. We will never challenge your experience. That's all. So naturally, we will create a space where you are free to talk about what exactly you have experienced. And so in that, what I feel is that people who have also had this strong experiences like this, who have trusted their intuition and how the senses function, how the senses change, who have observed this, plus people who have been actually concerned with natural birthing. There are a few friends who have joined here who have been doing that for many years. So people like that who is what we are hoping to hold the space, as a team to hold the space. And so that is basically the idea that we have. And of course, if this is a journey, it's not that I suddenly planned this. It organically happened. Actually, when I actually thought of doing would-be parenting workshop, I never thought I will deal with the womb. I only wanted to talk about how actually the whole process that I've observed of children when they are out, from 2 year onwards. That has been something that I've been studying very systematically, and so that is what I had in mind. But as I began to explore this, I realized that no, it's very important to start right from the womb, start trusting life from the womb. See, one thing that I feel is that ill health is not natural. That is because we have created a condition that is what is creating disease in the being. Disease is not natural because the kind of lifestyle we lead, the kind of food that we eat, the kind of thoughts that we have, everything is actually coming together and creating more and more diseases in modern humans. So I think it is important to understand what is actually the nature of life. You see? So, so I actually would like Anjana to share something, and then of course, Nutun, I hope you can share. Anjana, would you like to?
Yeah. So I had certain experiences or observations and reflections to share. So myself, Anjana, I have two children. Elder one is 7-year-old, almost 7, and younger one is almost 3. So I have heard of these stories what Jinan have shared from him earlier itself, and linking with that, I have been able to recollect some experiences or some observations I have had. So one was like when I was pregnant with my first one, Arush, when I was in my first trimester in the 3rd month, I had a very heightened sense of smell. So which was actually not what I liked then, because that heightened sense of smell used to cause me nausea. So I could smell everything. Like I would be in the first floor, but I could know what was being cooked in the kitchen, which vegetable was being cooked. I was even able to smell the varnish of the almirah, varnish of the table, anything, everything, the bathroom, the smell of the bathroom, not of the uncleanliness, but the other type of smell. So all these smells I actually didn't like, but it used to happen to me. And then what happened? I was at my in-laws. That happened when I was at my in-laws place, in that especially in the third month, I think. And then I had gone to my parents. Then I was there at my parents' home, and then after delivery, I again came back to my in-laws' home, and I then remembered this high sense of smell I had. But then I was not able to smell anything. I had gone near the almirah and the table and tried to smell them, but I couldn't get any smell. During my second pregnancy also, I didn't have any experience of any heightened sense of smell. Now, why this stands out is my elder one, Arush. I see that he have a very heightened, like his senses are very sharp. Not just sense of smell, but sense of taste and his seeing. So I just see that his senses are very sharp, and this somehow I am able to relate with what I had experienced during my pregnancy. And another observation was that the food I ate during both my pregnancies were actually different. The kind of food I preferred. So in my first pregnancy, I didn't actually wanted much food, and I actually preferred mostly like bland food. I avoided some food like non-veg and all. I avoided, and that naturally happened. And I used to prefer eating lots of fruits, and my mother used to make this homemade food with some like sweets with jaggery and something like that. Those were the foods I kind of preferred. And I see that my elder one is actually having the same kind of preference. But with my second pregnancy, it was just the opposite. Food was never enough for me. So I always wanted more food. I always used to feel very hungry. Every like half an hour, 1 hour, I used wanted to eat something. And I used to eat a lot, and I had no preference for anything. I used to eat anything and everything that was available. And I see that with my younger one, it's the same. Like for him, my elder one kind of like bland food. He doesn't like spicy food, and he prefers sweets and fruits. But coming to my younger one, he likes everything, whether it is spicy, non-spicy, sweets, fruits. He likes everything. So I feel like the food preferences I had was kind of linked with that, but the baby inside me, baby I was carrying. Then yeah, another experience I wanted to share is like how the children are now. Like in my first pregnancy, I was very calm, and I was like because I was not aware of anything. I don't know. I was very calm and very like composed and settled. And but after my delivery experience was not good, and also after delivery, I had some like this postpartum was also not good. So during my second pregnancy, I was repeatedly um, fearful. I was anxious. I was fearful, and I was worried. And also because after having the first child, I had I had read a lot about this healing, trauma, parenting, and so many things. So many things were in my mind, and I can now see that my second pregnancy, my mental state was not that very calm and composed as I was in my first pregnancy. And when I see my children, I see that the first one is naturally very fearless, and he readily mingles with every people. But I see that my second one is younger one. He is naturally having a fear. He is like a fearful child, and he doesn't readily mingles. He when he was younger, he had a huge stranger anxiety. He was fearful of new places, new people, anything new. He didn't want to go. He didn't want to leave me or leave his father. But now he's around almost 3, and because he's always with his elder brother, and his elder brother is having this very fearless nature. So because of the continuous presence of the elder brother, now I see that now I see a change coming in him. But other than that, I see that naturally the second one is a more having like a more fearful child. And one more experience I wanted to share, but this not experience or one more realization. Like this could be not directly related to this. I don't know, but this was again something I felt once. So so I was pregnant with my second child when Arish, my elder one, was 3.5 year old. So till then, my parenting was on another spectrum in the sense like I used to hear there were lots of toys, books. We used to do many activities and so on. So when I got pregnant with the second child, because of the tiredness and all of that, I was not able to do as much as I was doing before. So I actually kind of stopped doing, and then I actually started questioning why is it that I have to do all of this. And then I actually started feeling overwhelmed with the amount of books and toys and stuffs that I have collected for the child. And so these type of questions naturally started coming into me during my second pregnancy. And then after my second child was born, that was when I came across this book, Continuum Concept. That book I read when my younger one was just 1 month old, and that changed the entire outlook. And then 6 months later, I attended Jinan's session, and that completely changed the way I was looking into parenting and the way I lived also. And 6 months later, we moved to Wayanad. So that decision to move from a city to a village life in Wayanad, that was not something I would have ever thought I would do in my life, but that just happened. So we moved here, and when we moved here, it was actually rainy season, and there were rains and fog. So there is this one particular incident I remember. So one day morning, it was there was this fog and it was very cold weather. So I was wearing a sweater and a muffler and a socks and everything, and still I was feeling cold. And my younger one, he was completely naked, and he was walking on the fog, just like that, completely naked. He was walking on the fog, and I was standing in the door. When I looked this child, I was amazed. I couldn't believe how he is walking on the fog naked. And then this thought came to me, like, was this child um, built to be in Vaina? Was it this child that actually like moved all of us here? So this question came to me suddenly then. Uh, this could be not related, but this just came to my mind. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
I'd like to
Nutan?
say, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Please.
So I remember once I visited a family where everyone was wheat complexion, wheatish color complexion, but there was one child that was very dark. And the youngest child was in the mother's arms. She was also wheatish complexion. And when I went to the mother's room, I saw a poster. And I said, "Oh my God, your baby looks just like this poster." She said, "Yeah, I looked at this poster throughout my pregnancy because have you seen my elder daughter, how dark she is?" I said, "Yes." She said, when I was expecting her, I used to look at a picture of Laddu Gopal, Krishna uh, in his infant form, in his toddler form, which is always a black colored infant crawling with a laddu in his hand. So he's called Laddu Gopal. She said, I used to look at Laddu Gopal and my daughter's as she was as dark as Laddu Gopal. So even the complexion, it's amazing. The color was influenced by what the mother was looking at. Yeah. Just thought I'd like to share that. Mm. And in a family where everyone was a different complexion. So, thank you.
Thank you. So if anybody has any questions, we can pick up now.
I just remembered another incident which a French lady shared with me. She said that there was this couple, and the mother was pregnant, and she and her husband were having an argument. So the husband threw a cup of coffee at the mother, and it fell on her thigh, and she wiped it off. And when her baby was born, he had a birthmark exactly on the same thigh, looking like spilled coffee.
Yeah, I'm suddenly remembering getting more to share. Like when Arish was born, during that 5 months, 6 months time, um, like I was a new mother. I didn't know anything, so I remember that he was never a child who was very clingy to me, or he preferred, but he obviously had no difficulty adjusting with new people or anybody. So um I remember like some people used to mock me saying that he doesn't recognize his mother, he doesn't need his mother, and so these things used to worry me. And yeah, I even remember that when Arish was born, so there was this talk about skin color, so skin complexion. So Arish was a bit yeah, just the same color as myself and my husband. So and there was a talk about this skin color also. And then when the younger one was born, he was very fair. And I actually wonder because his skin color is entirely different from myself or my husband. Like we, like he at that time he was really like a very different color. But now again he's because he got tanned a lot. So but still that time I used to think how he is like his color is so fair. And then as he grew, he was like very clingy. He wouldn't just leave me. Even there was a time when he wouldn't even leave, he wouldn't even go to his father. He would only wanted me. And I had I had felt like with my first one, I wanted that I didn't get. So did the second one come to meet my unmet demands with the first one? So these whatever desires I had with the first one, whatever like feelings I had, so did this child come to my life to meet that? So yeah.
I would like to share something, Jinanji.
Riddhi, you're here. Hi, yeah.
Yeah, I would. Then I'll go because I'm in Delhi, and I told you I was. So what happened? Eh, Being a
Can you
mother.
sit down somewhere? You moving? Can you
Yes,
stop moving?
yes. Yeah.
Please sit
Can you
down
hear
and
me
then
now?
talk, please.
Can you hear me now? So I have also worked in a government setup and in a private setup, and in some mothers very beautifully share their feelings, like what they are observing in their pregnancy. And as I was listening to you, I felt that I remember my labor pains had started in on one day, 26th, but I don't want the baby to come out on 27th. So I kept talking to my, to myself and my baby, and I was like, not today, not today. So my labor slowed down, and he came next day morning. So what I felt, I was observing that, I am getting drowsy. I want to sleep. So I kept sleeping that day. And what I observed was a connection where I was being heard, and the reaction was happening like that. So what I felt is it an observation that how things. Uh, I was also slowing down because of the nature of labor, and how it had an impact on my journey of being in labor. So this is a very powerful thing that came to me when I was listening to you.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. So the other thing that I wanted to share was that so I've heard of Garb Samskar and things like that, where you begin to tell what to do, what kind of, what child should become. I'm now thinking that maybe we should adopt a slightly more, maybe sensitive way of just listening to the child, listening to the messages from there, and becoming absolutely mindful of whatever it wants to become, you know, and trusting that life will take care, you know. Because see, what is happening in modernity is that we are continuously conditioning the child. We are continuously telling this is what they should do. So the instruction that we are doing after the child comes out, now we are doing right from inside itself. You know, I believe that the sensitivity with which you become once you turn your attention to your inner being, I think that itself will make you into a very different person who is sensitive, who is open, who is, some transformation will happen just by that act itself, I think, you know. Uh, and I think that would be uh, uh, far more what do you call that? Pro-life. This is what I think. You don't have to believe what I say. Uh, that, but I feel that this is a very very, because I think this whole meditation and all that can happen just by this act of being present to the child. Just listening to the baby right from inside. Because it's see, I feel that the intention of the child is to find a place which is absolutely good for the child. That's why the child is cleaning you up. The child is healing you. The child wants you to eat the right food. So it's actually making everything possible for its life and making all the changes. So I think if we become extremely sensitive to that, I think that itself will make all the changes. And you don't, then probably you don't have to do any kind of garb samskar or anything like that. And something beautiful will happen just by that, because you are then becoming very sensitive and beautiful and innocent and all that, no, and trusting life, and that itself will will create the right condition for the child. This is what I feel, so this is one thing. The other thing that I'm also keen is that I was actually discussing this with someone else, and he told me something fantastic. I know many people will find it difficult to believe this, but what this friend told me was that he can recall his experience in the womb. Yes, memory of the womb, you see. Well, these are Probably these are very rare people, but they exist. And so I'm also hoping that we will find a few people like that. In fact, I came across, in the internet, in that thing, Medium. I did find somebody sharing her experience of her memory. So it's not that, that uh, rare. Well, of course, it may be that very much rare, but there are people, and I think it may be beneficial to invite, if we meet somebody, to come for our sessions.
Yeah, Jiranji, I have one experience to share.
So please.
In fact, I just recall as I'm attending this session, during the delivery of my first child, and being the first delivery, and that was in 2003, and we didn't have access to internet so much, and no mobile phones so much. So I had no idea how the delivery experience is going to be. I was in labor for almost 1.5 days. And the gynecologist doctor was my own relative. And at the end of around one day, or like after like almost 24 hours had passed, I was in pain. It's coming and going, but delivery is not happening. So she asked me, Vidya, don't you really want to deliver this child? You know, is your mind not ready to deliver this child? So that really, you know, made me think. So I think I was very anxious about how this is going to be and all that. And so then it happened after a few hours. Then after the water bag broke and the induced pain, and it happened, but then it really was a very long delivery. So doctor herself asked me, are you really not ready for this, mentally? So whereas for my second child, both were normal deliveries. I was very confident, very prepared, and again, suddenly the water bag broke, and they had to induce pain to make it happen. But I was very confident, and the whole episode got over in like 2-3 hours. So I think that's the role of mind. Yeah, thank you. Over to you.
Yeah. So, anybody has anything to share? Check.
I can share something.
Yeah, please, Sandra.
I have a son. He is 2.5, and I am recently also pregnant again. So only one moon cycle of the moon. So it's very early. But I've been observing this feeling of nausea and these things. I was very nauseous with my first child. Never vomiting, but I was just like constantly feeling a sense of like it's hard to describe. Like I didn't feel like I needed to vomit, but this almost like when you have had alcohol and you have the hangover, and it was like that all the time. And it was with my first child also specific to certain foods, so it changed the way I ate, and I can see he has the same eating patterns, so I can relate to this. I would eat a lot of fruit like melon or cantaloupe and coconut water, and he loves all of those things. But this constant nausea was not so related to foods or smells. It was just this constant feeling of nausea. And I've been feeling that a little bit this time as well. And it's not related to foods or smells or anything like that. And so it makes me wonder if it has more to do with my internal state. And so it's not that it's something in my environment that I cannot digest, but it's my internal emotions that I'm struggling to digest. And so yesterday I reflected a little bit and I had some emotional release around what was going on for me. And afterwards, I didn't feel nauseous anymore. So I think there can be an aspect of I can't digest or I can't process my emotions. And so there's like with my first child, I was very fearful of birth and I didn't think I could be a good mother. And, I was just very stressed about the whole situation. Like I cannot process this. That was like the whole overwhelming feeling. And I think that is why I was very nauseous in the first trimester. And this time I'm more calm and I'm more trusting. So I think when there is nausea, I'm more like aware that there is an emotional state I have to deal with. And then when I do, it gets better. So I hope I will be able to keep up with that for the next weeks because maybe I'll be heading into more like the deeper first trimester, and many people tend to get more nauseous then. But I'm telling myself that I'm not gonna be nauseous because I think if I tell myself I will be nauseous, I will probably be nauseous. So.
Yeah. So the invitation is to the would-be mothers that if they would like to, explore with us, then do write, do send us a personal message, and we will try and put together a small team. And so, of course, we will also would like to say that, it will not be a very open kind of a space where anybody and everybody can join. So it will be a very closed space, a safe space, where only very few people who are not pregnant would be there. Very few people. That will be people who have been actually into, natural birthing, like Nutunji has been doing that, who have been helping with natural birth and things like that. There will be few people like that who are, who have had experience of that, who can probably give some tips. So it will not be a place where anybody and everybody can be there. So feel free, actually, if you would like to join in this, do let me know directly. Sorry, no, please send me a message directly. And well, actually, we will work it out. Would-be parents can send me message directly. For the others, I will, have to really, I don't know how to go about, but I'll be speaking with few people and see how do we form a small team of 4-5 people who can support this whole thing, So they can also write to me if they are interested directly, but I will have to figure it out how to go about doing that. And basically, see, it is for the comfort of the would-be mothers. So if they don't feel comfortable, then it is not be a good idea to have too many people. So just mere onlookers are not allowed, So people with absolutely deep interest, they are the only people who will be, invited to be part of this. That is because that we would like that, would-be mothers to feel free. That's the reason. They should feel safe. That is the reason why such a decision has to be taken. Yeah. Yeah. So don't message here because it's, once I close, I won't read any message. Write to me directly. My number is there. Maybe I can put it once again in the group, and you can, you know. Yeah, people who are pregnant, I'm talking about that only. Would be meaning I'm not talking about somebody who is going to get married and then later. No, no. I'm talking about people who are already pregnant. And even up to 2-3 years, I think, 2 years. You see, basically, the whole issue is this. Can we bypass language? That's the whole question. Can we be sensitive to children and learn what they're trying to tell us? That's the basic, that's what it is. Can we make ourselves sensitive, observant, intuitive, and give rest to your rational mind and just understand, no? So, all right. Also, please understand that this is not a place where experts are there. Please, I hope you understand that. This is not a place where experts are going to tell you what to do. Please understand that. There is a place where we will hold sensitively so that you feel free to share. And we hold it. That's all. We trust you. That's all. You see? Yeah. All right.
I can just share 2 minutes, one more experience.
Yeah.
I will not take much time. When my first child was born, I had gotten back to work 91st day after delivery, and I was a working mother, and I had to depend on others to care my infant. Whereas for my second child, I was on a career break, and I could give complete attention, and I can see the differences in self-confidence and the calmness for the second child more because I was always there. Yeah, thanks.
Papa?
All right.
I would also quickly like to add something, Jananana. Actually, I thought I would not have anything to share because 5 years back I was not, as much in tune with my body. But then I love how we heard each other and, kind of remembered everything, little bits and pieces. So for me, when it was the due date, now we know due date is a myth. When the baby is ready, when the child is ready, it will come. The birth will happen. So I think I was 1 week or 2 weeks away from the due date. But my gynecologist, who is also a fellow Isha Foundation meditator, so she had certain plans on the day Dakshit was born. But then she anticipated his birth in advance because it was a full moon, and she had cancelled those plans. So this was, I mean, when I went to the hospital in the early morning, she was there. She was waiting for me. She said, "Batika, I knew you would come in because it is a full moon day, and the entire water bodies of the earth respond to the moon." So she says that on full moon days, the water is breaking in pregnant women. That is quite more, statistically speaking also. So yeah, that's all.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Maybe another day we'll come back again. Yeah. So let me, somebody's asking for my number. My number is 94471 21544. 94471 21544. It is there in the group, so you won't miss it. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank
There.
you. Thank you, Jinanji.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.